Welcome back to Fine Margins, powered by the Hammer Betting Network. On this show, we go through the weekend slate of EPL fixtures, looking for the best bets for you to make. I am your host, Jacob Grimenia, and as always, we have our sharp betting expert here, Paul MacDonald, to give us his bets. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I am doing well, and viewers of this show are doing well also, because if you watched our previous episode, Paul gave out 3 picks, and all 3 of those picks were correct. Now, Paul, obviously impressive to go 3-0. The most impressive thing about those, in this case for me, was that you perfectly called how all of these games were going to play out as well. So sometimes, you have the right bet. The game doesn't quite unfold as you expect, but for all 3 of these, I thought you called them perfectly, and you must be feeling good about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to give some manager-style cliches here. Let's just keep our feet on the ground, 1 week at a time, manage expectations, things like that. But yeah, a good start. But let's see what we can do this week.
Of course, we're excited, but we do need to follow it up with some more today, and hopefully we can do that. We're going to be covering 3 matches in a pretty loaded fixture list here. We've got Leicester against Nottingham Forest, battle at the bottom. Then we're going to talk about the North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham, and we're going to finish with the Manchester derby. As usual, we're going to be going through our banker, the bet builder, and the long shot, and we're going to start off with the banker on Leicester facing off against Nottingham Forest. Leicester still looking for their first win of the season. They only have 1 point. They are leaking so many goals and facing Nottingham Forest, who have looked all right, but only 4 points on the season. What do you have for this one?
So for this one, this is the Monday night fixture this weekend, and I kind of like Leicester in this one, which kind of goes against pretty much everything that we said last time out when they were dismantled by Tottenham.
Yeah.
Which got the long shot bet. I still don't think the defence is any good. I still think that Brendan Rodgers has got a lot of questions to answer. But the thing that he has had in his favour is Leicester have only played 1 game this month, and he will have had a bit of time on the training ground to get to grips with his players. And the fact that he's been given that time suggests that, well, one of 2 things is happening. 1, he's too expensive for Leicester to sack right now, which could very well be the case. Or 2, they still have faith in him as a coach to get them through this. And I think the interesting thing, if you look at Leicester's next 5 matches, they face off against Forest on Monday, then they have Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Leeds and Wolves. Now, that's a pretty winnable game of a run of fixtures for anybody. So I think Rodgers will be identifying these as the run that can almost stabilise Leicester's season and get them on the right track. And the curious thing about Leicester is they are still an excellent attacking team. They have great talent. Vardy hasn't had a particularly good start to the season, but he's always good for a goal. Maddison has actually been pretty exceptional. And you've also got guys like Patson Daka and Iheanacho who can also chip in with goals as well. So from an attacking perspective, I really don't have any doubts about Leicester. But as we say, like they're leaking so many goals. But I don't want to focus on Leicester's negatives. I want to focus on Forest's negatives because I'm still not convinced by them. All the things that we spoke about regarding Forest on the last episode, in case anyone missed it, Nottingham Forest have signed 25 players now over this transfer window. And manager Steve Cooper is the type of guy who likes to do his best work on the training ground and get guys playing in systems and getting tactical philosophies over. And he's just found it extremely difficult to do that with such a high turnover of players. If you look at Forest's last 4 matches, they've conceded 14 goals in those 4 games, including 3 last time out to Fulham. And that really could have been a lot more that night with the amount of chances that Fulham created. So if you look at things like expected goal difference away from home, Forest's expected goal difference on the road is the 2nd worst in the league, only behind Bournemouth. And of course, Bournemouth lost 9-0 at Liverpool, which yep. Obviously sums up why they're bottom. So they aren't creating any chances or scoring any goals away from home, and they're conceding a whole bunch of chances and conceding goals away from home. So from a Leicester Nottingham Forest perspective here, I like Leicester more than I like Forest, but it's the weaknesses that I see in Forest that are going to continue, I think. And I think that Leicester to win this game at home at around about -125 with BetMGM could be the banker bet of the weekend, because Leicester as a team, as a unit, aren't as bad as their performances suggest this season. And I think that this is the right opponent for them at the right time after a good international break that Rodgers has been able to work with the squad.
Yeah, this could be maybe the ultimatum game for Rodgers. pretty good run of fixtures coming up, but if Rodgers can't get a win out of this one, I think he might be gone. You get a new manager in with that easier run of fixtures, settle him in a little bit easier. And as for Forest, you see a lot of teams who get promoted, they still want to play that positive brand of football. Sometimes they learn it's not manageable. We'll see if that happens for Forest. I think a little bit too early to call that on them, but noticeable weaknesses defensively, especially Fulham 2 weeks ago. Seems like so long ago, but Fulham scored, I think they scored 3 in the space of like 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
the lapses are there for Forest. But let's move into our next fixture here. We got a very spicy one here. We got a couple of them. But we're going to start with the North London derby. Can get very testy. We've got a bet builder for this one for Arsenal against Tottenham, coming off that huge win against Leicester 2 weeks ago, where Heung-min Son wowed us off the bench, was 3 just brilliantly taken goals for his hat-trick. What do you have for us today on this one?
So there's a couple of different angles to take on this game. First of all, is the concept of the North London derby massively favours the home team across the last 10 years. If you look at the last 12 matches at the Emirates, Arsenal's record is 1-8 and drawn 4, and they've won 4 out of the last 5 of those matches. And if you look at the subsequent reverse fixture, Tottenham tend to win a hell of a lot more of those games than Arsenal do. So this is really a game which historically favours the home team. And there's a couple of other factors at play here as well, namely guys who have been away on international duty versus guys who haven't. Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus were excused from Brazil international duty, so they've stayed with Mikel Arteta during the international break and probably had a bit of a rest during that period, which is fantastic news for Arsenal to keep those guys fresh. Whereas if you look at the attacking players on the other side, Kulusevski, Son and Kane all played twice. And in Son's case, obviously travelled halfway around the world to play those matches. Yep. So you tend to find after international fixtures that the games following can be a little more cagey. But I just look at Arsenal and I think that they are a team of guys who have travelled less. Guys like Gabriel in defence didn't travel at all either. Odegaard did play for Norway, but he was coming off the back of a hamstring injury anyway. So he was getting himself back up to speed, and now he'll be very much back in the zone when he gets back to Arsenal. One minor weakness is I think Thomas Partey came off injured for the umpteenth time for in his career in international break, so he might miss the match. But that's already happened this season, and Arsenal have proven that other guys can drop in there like Lokonga has done previously. So I don't think that's a massive loss. Another guy like Fabio Vieira, for example, who looked really good for Arsenal last time out against Brentford, he's not been on international duty either, so he again is fresh. I just look at the Arsenal team and I think that they've had a bit of a break here and Tottenham haven't. And also Tottenham's record on the road this season, it's just not good. They have won one and drawn a couple. They haven't lost a game yet, but they're not exactly firing on all cylinders on the road either. And when you're 3 attacking players who are going to be in charge of creating everything for your team, and that's how Antonio Conte's Spurs really set up. The focus is on Kane, Son and Kulusevski to really do all the heavy lifting in terms of creating things. That just doesn't help when they've been really pushed for their international teams during the window as well. So they're coming back and they're jaded, and they've been spending time with different coaches, different positions, different environment. I just don't think that works out too well. So when you look at Tottenham on the road, they are unbeaten, but they've only won 1 of 3 matches, and their expected goal difference is only +1, which really isn't particularly good. Whereas if you look at Arsenal, they have one of the best expected goal differences in the league at home, behind only Manchester City, and they went 3-0 at home as well. So the precedent so far is really stacking up in Arsenal's favour at home, but we will get the draw on side with this one because Tottenham are a good team. They've got a great coach and they've got guys that can hurt you. So when we look at this fixture over the last 5 games, there have been 19 goals between these teams at the Emirates in the last 5 outings, which is an average of 3.8 goals per game.
Wow.
So what we'll do is, to be on the safe side, we'll bundle up double chance, Arsenal or draw, but we'll bet build with over 2 goals in the match, and that gets us to +125 with Bet365, which is an odds against builder which would have landed in 4 in the last 5 fixtures between these teams at the Emirates. So I'm more than happy to make that play in this one.
Yeah, as it comes to derbies, a lot of the times they can kind of end up being sort of duds of fixtures. You get a lot of 1-0s, 0-0s, 2 teams who maybe don't really want to be progressive, do anything. But with the North London derby, I always feel like there are goals in this fixture. And home field advantage, especially for a team like Arsenal, they like playing at the Emirates. I think that could favor them. So I support this one, and I think there's going to be goals. And based on the rest that you spoke about, I also think that Arsenal could have the edge in that regard as well. But let's move into the final fixture. Oof, my Manchester United are taking on Manchester City, the Manchester Derby. For a Manchester United fan like myself, it's lost a little bit of its spice in the last little bit because of City's dominance in the English Premier League. I think under Solskjaer, we had a really good record in the Derby. But coming up against this side, managed by Pep Guardiola, with the man Paul MacDonald is a huge fan of. He loves him. Erling Haaland up top could spell some trouble, but there is a long shot that we have for this one. So, Paul, let's see what you got.
So, yeah, very much a long shot, this one. But we're going to take on the bookmakers a little bit with this one, I think, because Man City are massive odds-on favourites for this game. Erling Haaland is in short in some places as plus 150 to score like 2 goals in the match. That's the odds we're looking at here. That's how prolific he's been. But and there always is a but. Haaland wasn't great on international duty with Norway in those 2 matches. Didn't get on the score sheet and generally looked a little bit like he needed a break. And traditionally, this fixture is one of the ones that Pep Guardiola really hasn't appreciated. As you say, under Solskjaer, they got some pretty decent results against City. And 6 of the last 7 outings of this fixture have went under 2.5 goals. In your head, you think of this type of game as being a free-flowing, high-scoring game, but it's not been the case recently. And the way that Erik ten Hag has changed the team from the disasters of the Brighton and Brentford games at the start of the season when they lost at home and then they lost heavily away at Brentford. Yep. He's made some defensive tweaks. The first thing that Ten Hag wants to do before he actually instills his philosophy in this team is make sure they don't lose matches. And to his eternal credit, they have actually looked pretty solid. If you look at their last 4 away outings, they've scored 4 times and conceded none. And that was twice in the league, away at Leicester, also away at, give me 1 second, Southampton, and also against Tiraspol in the Europa League. No goals conceded in those 3 away matches. So very much away from home, keeping it tight and looking to hit on the counter-attack. And I think that's exactly what they will do here. They've done it before with the likes of Rashford, with Sancho, with Alanga. There are guys in this team that have got pace to counter-attack. I think City will be wary of that. And I think the first half might be a bit of a non-event because City will be just feeling things out because they'll be scared to get hit on the counter. So I like the fact that there's not a lot of goals in these fixtures. I do like to get Man United on side here, not to win outright because that would be a bit too much of a long shot, quite frankly. But I do like them in the double chance market as well. They have drawn and they have won at the Emirates in recent history, and I do like the way they're setting up defensively. So the way that this match could play out, it could play into the hands of a low-scoring game and United maybe getting a draw or maybe even sticking one. So for the long shot bet, we're going to go for double chance, draw or Man United. We're going to go under 4 goals in the match, which, as I suggested, would have landed in 6 of the last 7 meetings between these teams. And we're also going to look at over 1 yellow card in the match for Man United. Man United have the second most yellow cards in the entire league this season. Scott McTominay himself has got 4. So I think that the way that the game will shape up, United will compress deep and look to defend deep, and there'll be niggly fouls in there. And in the transition, there'll be yellow cards getting handed out. So if we add in United over 1 card, that takes us to plus 550 with Bet365 for the builder and gives us a bit of interest in that one, which maybe goes against the grain a little bit based on what people might be expecting. But I do think that Ten Hag is shaping this team up a little bit differently now, and I think they could at least be competitive in this one. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I was kind of making fun, a little bit of having fun with Man United there, but they do typically play well against City. Guardiola, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to get it right against United, and I think it was 2 seasons ago, City and United faced off 4 times. I believe United won 3 of them and lost 1 of them. The loss occurred in the League Cup semifinal. They did lose on aggregate despite winning the second leg, but they won 3 out of 4 games. And what they do well is, like you said, they counter. They sit deep. They try to frustrate City. They kind of let the midfielders have it in non-threatening spaces and just look to clog up the middle. And that's definitely something that Erik ten Hag is going to look at doing again. Hasn't been the best brand of football in the last few games, but they have been winning games, and they've been winning games, like you said, because they keep the ball out of the net. The Leicester one in particular was one where they didn't look great, but they nicked a goal with Sancho off of a defensive error, and some good De Gea saves, maybe a little bit of fortune as well they keep the ball out of the net. So I like this one as well. So to finish off, let's just recap all 3 official plays that we have from you and see where it takes us for the weekend.
So our banker for the weekend will be Leicester on the nose to win the match against Nottingham Forest on Monday night. That's -125 with BetMGM. For Arsenal versus Tottenham, which is the early kickoff on Saturday morning, we're going to go Bet Builder and we'll go result in the double chance market being Arsenal or draw and over 2 goals in the match. And that pays out at +125 with Bet365. And then finally on Sunday, the long shot builder will be result or draw or Man United in the double chance market, under 4 goals in the match and over 1 yellow card for Man United, which pays at +550, again with Bet365. And just to add to that one a little bit, mate, if you want to go a bit more bold on the card market, particularly the way that United are racking up cards in pretty much every match this season, you can get something like over 2 cards in the match, or over 3 cards in the match for United alone at +250. And these are always feisty affairs. It will really depend on the referee and whether he brings out a yellow card early. So I wouldn't go high stakes on it, but I could see a lot of bookings in this one. So over 3 cards for United at +250 could be an interesting side bet for you as well.
Yeah, whether it's McTominay starting or Casemiro even getting the chance here, those two love a card. So yeah, I can attest for that one as well. But with that, from Fine Margins, thank you to Paul for joining us here as always, and thank you for watching this one. If you want to listen to this, you can check out the podcast on any podcast platform. Links are in the description for all of those, and you can check our link tree. If you're watching on YouTube, you want to see our nice faces, make sure you are subscribed there, and you can like that one as well. And tune in every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Me and Paul are going to be right here setting you right for the best bets for the Premier League, and we'll have some more content coming out for the World Cup when that's get kicking. You want to keep it locked with Fine Margins on the Hammer Betting Network. Thank you, everybody.